Why does some content rank on page 1 while other pieces of content that are exactly the same, covering the same topic, never get seen? Different isn't luck. It doesn't mean that you're not covering the right types of information. It's just that you're not providing quality. If you're not providing quality content, you become invisible. And Google has become exceptionally good at figuring out what is quality and what is absolute rubbish. Now, if you're on the rubbish side, congratulations. You're going to get stuck at the bottom of rankings, seeing no traffic. Your business is going to go absolutely nowhere. But let's look at a couple of very important pillars that you can lean on to make sure that your content quality jumps quite substantially. And as it jumps, you are able to really start dominating a lot of the rankings. There are a few important things that we need to have a look at. First thing actually starts with Google's E.E.A.T ranking factors that they have a look at. Now, this is something that isn't necessarily automatically applied exactly as it is, but the quality raters at Google look at that very seriously. So you can probably guess that quite a bit of that actually filters down into the regular search results. Now let's see what it's all about. So the E.E.A.T stands for expertise, experience, authoritativeness, and trust. Now, if you're missing some of those elements, you are putting yourself in a deficit. But there are ways to just improve it and really make sure that what you offer and the quality of what you offer stands out from what your competitors are doing. Now, there's so much regurgitation of a lot of the content that you find on the internet at the moment. So let's take something, for example, like painting the wall here behind me. If you're going to say paint the wall, yes, you are being completely truthful with the information that you're offering. But if you rather go with an explanation that is a little bit more detailed and you point out things like make sure that you only use the bottom third of the brush and then have slow and steady strokes up and down so that you don't cause smudges while you are painting. That is a lot different from paint the wall. So Google can see that you're offering practical information. It's often in a way that you show your expertise, you show that you've got an understanding of the topic, and it builds trust. So there are ways in which you can just state your content in a little bit of a different way that just stands out completely from the mundane versions of content that you are currently creating. Next up, you need to look at the depth of your content. Really make sure that it's a comprehensive piece of content that goes into detail on what you are offering, the solution that you're offering, and anticipating some of the follow-up questions. So, for example, let's take our painting example, and you just explain to somebody how they need to have the strokes up and down and have them be done in a way to avoid smudges. What you can do next is then explain to people that you probably need to do a second coat after the coat has dried, and it would take X amount of hours for the paint to dry. Then, once the paint is dried, make sure that you wash your brushes using a specific method, depending on the type of paint that you're using. So anticipate a lot of the questions as they would appear in order. So if somebody comes to your site, they're not just going to see paint the wall, they're going to actually see a lot of the information that they need to practically go and do the task or practically understand the solution. And then they would be able to see, hey, this site is actually offering more information. It helps me through my whole project. This is probably a site I can trust, and this is a site that I want to do business with. It's actually so simple as that. And Google can connect those dots, which becomes very, very important to remember. Then, where everything falls apart is originality. People tend to just take whatever's out there, thinking that they can just make a slight little change to it. And if they make the slight little change, suddenly it is exactly what people are after. But bring in a little bit of originality. You will find so many pieces of content that are so shallow, that don't really offer insights, and don't offer an interesting, different perspective. Just by switching it up a little and looking at it from a different angle, you'd be able to offer a solution in a way that people might have been blind to previously, but now with your new perspective, you're actually offering something that really lets a light bulb go off. And suddenly they know exactly what they need to do next. Once again, it comes back to showing your expertise and really building the trust with the person consuming your content. And one of the tricks that I actually just love using is using a little bit of data just to really back up exactly what you're saying. Everybody loves statistics. If they can see a statistic, they believe what is written a lot more. If they can quote that stat to somebody else, even better. but that's not the important part for now. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you have a couple of very relevant and useful pieces of information backed by data and backed by statistics. So going back to our example of painting the wall, if you explain to somebody by just using the bottom third of the brush, you can save up to 32% of the total amount of paint that you use and ensure that you have a smoother coat of paint on the wall. That is something that's going to be very interesting for somebody to read and probably something that they never took into account. And if I haven't said it enough, once again, you show your expertise and you show people that they can trust what you're sharing with them. So before you publish your next piece of content, just go through this quick little checklist of the 4 pillars. So first off, make sure that you are showing off your credibility with those EEAT types of content, where you show off your expertise, you show off your authoritativeness, you show off your experience, and you build trust. Second up, make sure that there's depth in your content. That you anticipate a lot of the questions that would come after your initial piece of content, that you answer those questions to really show you're trying to provide a solution. Up third is making sure that your content is original. Go at it with a slightly different angle. Don't try and be a copycat. And the last one, just to add a little bit of flavor, make sure that you drop in some stats and add in some data that just basically backs up what you're saying in your content. When you've got that little mix there, you're going to be in a winning position. You're going to be a happy camper. Your client is going to be a happy camper, and you're going to get the traffic to your site that you deserve. If you found that useful, do subscribe. And I think it would be good just to watch some of our other videos and make sure that you stay on top of creating quality content and really build out your business online.